Testing. We're going to ask everyone to get seated. We're supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and we're already 15 minutes late. We have a full program. We want to make sure that you enjoy all. The president of Middle East University to come up, Carlos. Please, if you can come up and welcome the group, and then we'll ask Mark to give the opening prayer.
Welcome everyone. We are blessed to have this special weekend to celebrate the 85 years of the life of Middle East University. And also it's an opportunity for alumni to come to their alma mater and meet their colleagues, their friends, their classmates, their teachers, the classrooms, the cafeteria, the places where you have studied. I see here some of my students who graduated in the last 10 years that I am teaching here, and others that I have met, like this couple here in the first row, that Dr. Mark introduced me a few minutes ago, that were his classmates some years before. And I want to welcome each one of you, whether you are an alumnus or you are a faculty or a staff or a former faculty and staff, our current students, the members of the Board of Trustees, the MAU Church members, everyone, welcome. And we pray that this event will be a blessing for all of us as we remember how God has blessed this institution throughout these 85 years and how God has blessed each one of us individually and our families as a result of the mission, the purpose of this institution. If we started in 1939, and you do some math, 85 years adds up to when? You are not good in math? 85 years after 1939 was 2024, last year. And we were planning to have this celebration in November of 2024, but due to the war situation in the country, it has to be postponed. But thank God, we started the year with peace, with a hopeful recovery for the country, and we are blessed to have this occasion this weekend to celebrate. I want to welcome also those who are watching online. Some of our alumni and friends send me emails saying, I will not be able to join in person, but I will join online. So those of you who are watching from your home, wherever you are in the different parts of the world, also feel welcome. And also, despite the distance, feel our warmth and our hearts together tonight and throughout this weekend. I want to mention that on the back of your name tags, there is a QR code where you can, with your device, scan the QR code and go to the detailed program for tonight, for tomorrow, and for Sunday. We prepare a website where you can see all the flow of the program for the whole weekend. Each one of one, welcome, and may we enjoy this celebration this weekend.
Well, good evening. I'm Mark Haddad, and I am the new treasurer of the Middle East North Africa Union. And I would like you to stand with me now as we have our opening prayer. Precious Father in heaven, Lord, 85 years seems like a long time in some ways, but Lord, it's just a short time in some of our memories. Some of us can remember quite a ways back. But Lord, we know how you have blessed this school through the years. Lord, I have met many graduates from decades ago that have gone all around the world and are doing amazing things for you. And Lord, we pray that you will continue to bless this campus, this faculty and staff. Lord, that each student that comes here may grow closer to you, both spiritually, but also that they will be able to take the skills that they learn here and make a difference in the world. And so, Lord, as we celebrate this weekend, we ask for your presence. In Jesus' name, amen.
Now, you have a last name that is very Arabic sounding.
Yes.
And I know that people are wondering about this that don't know you. Can you explain that to everyone?
Sure. My last name is Haddad, but it's not from Lebanon, even though everybody I meet here says, you must be Lebanese. My dad's family is from Jordan, so it's the Haddads from Jordan. But they immigrated to the U.S. in the 1950s. And actually, my dad never set foot in the Middle East again from the 1950s, which was sad. We came and had to visit without him. But he passed away 25 years ago, unfortunately. But yeah, all my family, I have 31 first cousins, but they're all in Southern California.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, we will start our program tonight. And as you can see, the title is Alumni Tell Their Story. So without further ado, I'll step down and the program will begin.
Wow, can you believe it? In less than 2 weeks, no,
Oh, 1 week.
it's actually 1 week. In less than 1 week, we're graduating.
I know, right? It's crazy. It feels like a dream, you know. We've been here forever.
Exactly. Kind of. 4 years. But you know what? I actually knew FAMU before. My two sisters were here and they loved it. I love it.
That's interesting because my brother is going through it right now. It is really such a cool place.
I know. You know what? Sometimes we complain and, we don't want to study and we stress out, but I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss being SA president and then planning all of these events.
Yeah, the events were fun.
I know, like Hawaii party and carnival party.
Carnival was amazing.
I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, I did a lot of growing. Sometimes I think about the people that were in these classrooms, these halls. You know, I wonder what stories they would have to tell us.
Well, I've heard that actually some of them are here. So maybe we can hear some.
Really?
Maybe we can hear some of them today. And you know what? Maybe years later, maybe we will be asked to come back here, hopefully, and share our stories. That would be fun.
It would be fun. You know, now would be a good time to talk about MEU's history because it is the MEU's 85th anniversary, but I don't really know much about it.
Me too.
So how about I invite Dr. Mark and he can tell us more about it.
I want to invite someone to the stage. Faiza Abu Jaudi Asma, would you please come up and join me? Have a seat, please. This one is for you. So we're going to show you some old slides and pictures, and we have Faiza up here today because she is probably the only one here today that remembers many of these people and knew them well. So we're going to invite her to tell us about them as we show the slides. All right, next slide. So the early beginnings were with a man named Walter Ising, Pastor Walter Ising. I'm going to move my chair here just a minute so I can see. There, okay. And he came to Beirut in 1909. He was a German American, and he was sent to Lebanon from Germany. There were already 7 to 8 SDA members in Beirut, and they were over on the west side of Beirut because all of this was basically forest and wilderness. There was almost no housing in this area, no shops. No, it's hard to believe, but we'll show you some pictures. Next slide. So after studying Arabic, Pastor Ising rented a house near the Syrian Protestant College. Well, what is that? Well, that was the precursor for AUB. And he began giving weekly Bible studies to college students. And in 1911, he baptized 3 people, Ibrahim El-Khalil, Shukri Naufal, and Bashir Hassel. And Faiza knew all of them well. And these 3 members later helped to establish Middle East College. Next slide. So let's talk about Ibrahim Khalil. And he was Kurdish, and he came from Turkey. And after he became a Christian, he came to Beirut. Can you tell us something about him? He was a very close personal friend of Faiza's family.
Ibrahim al-Khalil was our grandparents with his wife. We enjoyed them very much in the school and the church. And he was the cause of my father to be an Adventist. He is Muslim coming from Turkey. He was studying in Turkey in evangelical school, and he knew about the Bible and about Jesus, and he accepted Jesus to be his savior. And then he went home, and they saw him reading the Bible, his parents, so they were going to kill him. He ran away all the way from Turkey to Lebanon, sleeping at daytime and woke at night, all the time, all the way through. And he came to Lebanon and started working, and then started studying. And he studied at the AUB. And he was a pastor later as an Adventist. But my father wasn't Adventist, and he was like worldly people, drinking, smoking, everything. And it was forbidden at that time to have a Bible.
Now that's very surprising to people here, but this was the time of the Ottoman Empire, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
This was under the Turks in Lebanon.
Yes.
Okay, so you had restrictions at that time. Even though you were Christian, you had restrictions on having Bibles.
Yes. So he came, and by the chance, he met my father in the hotel in Hamdoun, and my father was a carpenter. My father was a carpenter, and they asked him to take care of the hotel because it was just coming summer.
Faiza,
And he,
Faiza, put it up just right up to your mouth.
yeah.
Keep it up there, okay?
So he met my, so at the hotel, you know, they meet during breakfast, dinner, and supper. And my Ibrahim al-Khalil had the Bible. And my father saw him, he had the Bible. He said, how is it you have a Bible? It's forbidden. The Pope will take you out from the church. And then my father said, how is it? And then he said, read for me. So he started reading for my father. And my father was very happy because he was drunk, and there is something nice to read from the Bible. So he told him, bring me a Bible. So he got a Bible for him, and he started reading the Bible. His parents, his mother, saw him having a Bible. She said, it's forbidden to have a Bible. The church will take us from the church. And he didn't care. He went to the room and started reading the Bible. And every day he used to meet brother Ibrahim al-Khalil. And later my father became a Christian, real Christian. And he stopped smoking, he stopped cursing, and became very good. And my father used to play the violin. And he started singing with him. Later, when the missionaries came to Lebanon, they didn't have a church. So the missionaries started...
Okay, you're getting ahead of our story here, okay?
Short one. Okay, a short one.
Can I have the slides back on?
Yeah, anyway, I'll tell
Okay.
short.
No,
Short.
because you're way ahead. So I'll ask you more questions about that in just a minute.
Okay.
All right. So he became a Seventh-day Adventist minister, and Faiz's father was the first convert, right?
This is the father.
Okay. Now next slide.
And
So-
this is my father.
Yeah. Okay, so the slide on the picture on the left, this is, I think, a picture new to me, and it may have been just discovered. It was in possession, it's his possession. But this is Walter Ising, Pastor Walter Ising, later in life. And then this is Ibrahim Khalil together, right? And the middle picture is her father. And what was his first name?
Mansour.
Mansour, always put this up.
Mansour Abu Jawdi.
We want everyone to hear you, so please.
Mansour Abu Jawdi.
All right. And I put this cabinet up here because what was his profession? He was a carpenter. A master carpenter. And there used to be a beautiful set in the president's office, a desk and a cabinet. And this is all that remains. But this cabinet is up in the library today.
Yes.
And this was made by her father. Okay. Okay, next slide. So let's talk, and I'll come back to the church and other things, okay? All right? So this is Shukri Naufal.
Shukri Naufal.
Okay.
This is Shukri Naufal. The first pastor, he was in the mountain, and then my father was Adventist in Beirut.
Right. He was from a village near Sukul Garb, and he was a student at the Protestant college. And he also was attending this Bible study, and he became the first Lebanese ordained minister. Now, what kind of person was he? Do you remember anything about him?
What?
Was he a kind person? Was he quiet?
He was very good, strict Adventist. If he's, yeah, because if he sees something not right, he'll be very upset. He wants to be a very strict Adventist.
Oh, that's funny. Next slide. Okay, now we come to the third slide. This is Bashir Hasso, and we could have a whole program about him. He led a very, very interesting life, and he's on the right. He was from Iraq, and the person on the left, who can tell me who that is on the person on the left? Anyone know? Keo. This is Keo, yeah. This is George Keo.
Keo.
Yeah, and he was originally a missionary in Egypt, came from England, yeah. And then he had been brought to Lebanon to help with the church and the work that was being done in Beirut. Bashir Hasso was also a student at the college. He came here and studied pharmacy. And this was a very eventful time for him because he'd come from a Protestant education in Iraq, but he was having doubts about his faith, and his faith was restored by these studies of the Bible in Walter Ising's home. He became a very ardent Adventist, and we'll tell more about him in just a minute. And he returned to Iraq, and he founded the church in Iraq. All right, next slide. So in 1938, this is Arthur Keel, and this is the son of George Keel. And he came to Beirut to open a school. He finished his education in England. This was George Keel's son. And he came to open up a new school in Musaipi. Next slide. And he had grown up in Upper Egypt, and he spoke Arabic. He spoke Arabic fluently. And the school was to provide Christian education in the Middle East. Now, you were a young girl at that time in 1938,
Yes.
and by that time you were living in Musaipi, right?
Yes.
And your father had taken the family down there to be part of the church,
Yes.
and also to be part of the school that was developing.
Yes.
Tell us about the people there. Were they excited about establishing a school?
They were what?
Were they happy about having a school?
Of course, because they didn't have a school, they didn't have church, so they had. This is the building they rented to have a church, and then they had the church.
I'll show the next slide in just a second. You're doing great, okay? Okay. So this building still exists in Beirut, and they rented this building. This was the first site of their church. Now let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this was the building that they became their building. They moved to it, and they built a second story to the church, and that's where they started the school. And this was built by Najib Ghazel.
Yes.
Now, who do you think that was, Najib Ghazel? This
It
was
was
from the Ghazel
19
family. This was Raja's great uncle, right? And the Ghazel family had come from Turkey, from the area of Mardin. They had been persecuted there, and they were all stalwart members of this church. And he was a civil engineer. So he helped to build this, okay? And that's what it looked like.
Yeah, that's family.
Next slide.
Najib, yes.
So his brothers were Ibrahim, Melki, Shamoun. They were all early members of the Musaipi church. The Abu Jaudis were there, and we had others there. And they called it the Adventist College of Beirut. It was started in 1939, and Pastor Shukri Naufal taught the religion courses. And Ibrahim Khalil was already retired, but he assisted Pastor Naufal in the administration and in the teaching in the school. So you remember them teaching there at the school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I studied there, and
so you went to school there also?
yes, I studied there,
Wow.
and then I taught there.
Yeah. Well, then this was the precursor also of the Musaipi school that they have now. Right? So now, because of World War II, the Adventist College of Beirut had to move to Jordan. 3 students actually graduated there in 1941: Abraham Masloum, Camille Naufal, and Shafiq Shrour. Camille Naufal later was quite well known in the United States. He was translator to several of the U.S. presidents.
Yeah.
Now, in 1941, the college came back to Musaipi. Now, why would they have come back in 1941? Anyone have an idea? Because the British and the Australians and African regiments had marched up the coast through Palestine, and they had come up to Lebanon, and they had taken over Lebanon from the Vichy French. The Vichy French were allies of Hitler and Hitler's armies. And the Free French came in, and so order was established. Charles de Gaulle came here, and then Lebanon was on its road to becoming independent. So they moved the college back here. Next slide. Right. Now, in 1943, Bashir Hasso and his brother Nasib Hasso came. Nasib Hasso is on the far right. And this is the same picture. This is Bashir Hasso, and then this is George Keel. They made a very large donation to the Adventist church here in Lebanon. Now, where did they get all of this money? Where did this come from? Well, they went back to Iraq, and during World War I and during part of World War II, they were isolated. There was not good communication. There was war going on. There was turmoil going on. But in the meantime, they were in the right place at the right time, because oil was first discovered in the Middle East in Iraq. So money and business poured into Baghdad, and he was there. He was a Christian, he was a Protestant, he spoke good English, he was a registered pharmacist, and he was a born businessman. So God blessed their efforts, and they were very faithful stewards, and they became known throughout all of Baghdad as being the most honest businessmen in Iraq. Something that we all should be very proud of. And they took that money and they came back here, and they said, we need to establish a true college for our children and our students here in the Middle East. So next slide. So do you remember meeting them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can we have the next slide? Right. So here's a picture, an early picture. This was the road that the Najib, Najib Ghazal, that he built up, and this is the beginning of the college there up on the hill. And as you can see, it was all forest. It wasn't city at all. Yeah. So they built a road up from Sabtiya Hill. The building site was leveled that we're on now. And then we had a very important event on October 15, 1946. President Bashar Houri, the first president of Lebanon,
Yes.
visited the campus, and he laid the cornerstone of the men's dormitory, which is the North Hall. So for most of the history of the school, North Hall was the men's dormitory. And inside that cornerstone, there was a brief history of the college, names of the board members and faculty, and a Roosevelt dime and a Lebanese coin was placed. Next slide. So here's some pictures of the construction. You can see they had a lot to do, and I could tell a lot more stories about that, but we don't have time for that at all. Yeah. So here's a picture. Here's the famous picture of President Bashar Houri, and he's there. He came up to the campus to dedicate the building of our school and to place the cornerstone here. Now, what happened during that time they were building it? The College of Beirut, the Adventist College of Beirut, was moved to Beit Mary, and this was an early class of students that were studying in a hotel in Beit Mary. Next slide. From 1944 to 46, the Adventist College of Beirut conducted classes at the Grand Hotel, and then in 1946 to 47, they moved to another hotel, Hotel Khazub in Beit Mary. Now, magic date, October 1947. This was our campus and how it looked in those days, all right? There on the right-hand side is South Hall. On the other side, the left-hand side, is North Hall. There were 2 stories on South Hall. There was 1 story on North Hall. And where's the administration building? Didn't exist, all right? Yeah, it didn't exist. But they had a place, and they came, and as things were being constructed, they continued their classes. They planted trees, a farm was started, and already in 1948, they had the first commencement here on campus, and they were 2 graduates, Adib Farjo and Shaheen Ilter. Does anyone remember Shaheen Ilter from Andrews University? She was a registrar at Andrews University for many years. Next slide. Now, the administration was built in 1954. This is how it looked. It was only 1 story. This is the sidewalk going up to the administration building. The store and bakery was built in 1957. They kept adding majors, business, economics, elementary, teacher education, and English. And you said many of your brothers came and studied and actually graduated from here. Is that correct? Salam graduated from here.
Yeah.
Habib went to school here.
Yes, Habib and my brothers and all of them.
Yeah.
They studied there too.
And then you were coming up here also. You were coming up here. Yeah.
There are some friends.
In that picture. So this is a picture of the activities. And some of you know Ella Haddad, okay? And she's on the right-hand side, the woman on the right-hand side. And I believe that's Edmond next to her. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is Denise, Denise and others. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And this is Assis George Houri. When he was a young man, and this was graduating. And this was Dr. Garrity. This was Larry Garrity's father. Thomas Garrity was one of the presidents of our school. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, so and then 60s and 70s were ones of growth. The 3rd floor was added to the administration building, and the administration building 3rd floor at that time was part library and mostly science labs. And then in 1970, something very momentous happened. Middle East Union became part of the Afro-Mideast Division. So it wasn't just the Middle East anymore. It included North Africa, it included Egypt and Sudan, it included Ethiopia, Kenya, East Africa, and Uganda and Tanzania. So these students started coming here. Now, why would they come all the way from Africa? Because they had no schools at that time there. No Adventist schools were there. They had one school down in Helderberg, and I think Salusi in southern in Rhodesia. And so they were anxious to come and have a Christian education. Now, at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Eileen, and she's going to talk a little bit about a video that we're going to watch. This is very exciting.
Thank you, Dr. Mark and Auntie Faiza. That was so lovely to see how our university started and how we're still going strong today. So we're celebrating 85 years of Middle East University. We have a video from somebody who is right now 100 years old. Uncle Moses Almadjian, he lives in Cyprus, well-known businessman. He studied at this university. In fact, he's so well-known there that the local TV station came and did a little interview with him, asking him, you know, what's the secret of your longevity? And he had a nice little a witness opportunity to say about his health message and the Adventists and everything. It was really sweet. But he has a little message for us, so let's see that now.
Middle East College. This is to certify that Moses Almadjian maintained a 3.58 grade point average for the first two quarters of 1968-69 school year, and thereby qualified for academic distinction in the honors convocation held June 2, 1969. That's the one. Next, Middle East College summer program in conjunction with the Andrews University Extension School certificate of attendance. We certified that Moses Almadjian from July 8, 1969 to August 1969 has attended the following courses: prophetic guidance, problems in theology, evangelism, number 2, seminar in Islamics audit. That's one. And scholarship report beginning typewriting, freshman composition, principles of accounting, principles of education, life and teachings of Jesus, history of the Middle East, and voice. I got total credits for the 2 years, 1968 and 1990, were 118 with 387 honors, 118 with 367 honor, were 118 with.
Yeah.
I wish to send my greetings and congratulations to the staff and faculty for the 85th year of the establishment of the Middle East College, where I attended for 3 whole years with 4 children, and with I was 38 years old, and it made a very big impact on me, especially the Vespers, watching the sun setting in the west, and the spiritual impact and emphasis that the professors gave. It influenced my life a lot, as well as, of course, educationally, although I was well above the age of the average students. So I had to study much more. I did intensive courses to keep up with the average students.
That's amazing. When I was looking for a fellow student a few years ago, he was the one that helped me find her in Cyprus. We had not lost contact with for many years. I want to thank Faiza for coming up. We're going to move on to a next part of the history, but thank you so much for sharing your stories about these people and the effect they had on our lives. And thank you for sharing with us how interested and how supportive the church was in Musaipi to educate their children and provide Christian education. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to run through these slides quickly. We have more very interesting testimonies to share tonight. So in the 1970s, students now came in the 60s from Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. Also, students started coming from Nigeria, the United States, and Canada. Now, this picture, most of the people in this picture, Farid and I know. So I believe that this picture was taken 73 to 74 or 74 to 75. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're not in the picture, but we know most of these people here. And Samir was here also. Yeah. So now you can't talk about the 60s and 70s without at least mentioning Mr. Feynman. He was a master Austrian baker. He came to Iraq. He caught polio there in Baghdad. He was working in a 5-star hotel. He became semi-paralyzed, and they took him to the Adventist hospital there. It was Dar es Salaam. And they took good care of him, and the Christian nurses that helped him, he began having more an interest in one of them in particular, and that was Widad Mashni. And she was a nurse there. She was from the Mashni family in Ramallah in Palestine, and he went to her father and proposed, and the father accepted. Now, this was even though, because of polio, if you look at his hand, his left arm is withered. He had no use of his left arm, right? And he came on a visit to Middle East University, or at that time it was Middle East College, and they said, wow, we have a bakery, you're a master baker, please come and work here. He said, I only have one hand. And the response was, the students will be your left hand and arm. Okay? And that's what happened. And next slide. This is the biology lab today, but this was the entrance for where the van would come up and pick up the bread and the cinnamon rolls and everything that they made. And he made a name for Middle East College at that time. We were known all over Beirut. We were the only bakery in Lebanon that provided sliced bread, okay? Sandwich bread, right? And here's a picture of President Shamoun's wife. She came to visit him. She was so interested in elevating the bakeries and the way bakeries operated in Lebanon. She'd heard about this bakery on campus, and she came to make a personal visit, and that's him. And as you notice, his hand is withered, and his right hand is the only one that works. And he made all this wonderful bread and all these wonderful products, and he took it in a van and took it all over Beirut. And the students worked in the bakery. They learned how to bake, and it was just a wonderful present, and he was here for many, many years. Next slide. Now, we're going to go on to the crisis years, 75 to 1990. This was a book that was written by Violet Wentland. She was a teacher that spent 20 to 25 years of her life here in teaching special English and home economics. And this is about a particular period of time that they lived in where they were living in the bomb shelters during one of the crises during this time. And she had just passed away, I think, a year and a half ago. Yeah. Next slide. So the first president was Ralph Karini. He was the president when Samir and Farida and I were here. And he was an economist. And we had 15 months of civil war before I left. And then right after I left, they closed school, and they were trying to get everyone to go to their countries or where they were going to be for the summer. 3 days after I left, a projectile or a rocket went into the cafeteria. And I heard the story myself, okay, from him. And he told me, I ran from the administration building. I came to the cafeteria. I was sure that many students were dead, that their heads had been decapitated, but it had gone 1 to 2 feet above everyone's head. Yeah. And it had embedded on the other side of the wall. And so he felt, and many of us felt at that time, that this was a wonderful miracle that God had given us during a very difficult time. Already during that time, there was fighting that was going around us, and several weeks before that, he made a phone call down to the boys' dorm, the men's dorm, I should say, and I was still there, and we all had to go up and fight a forest fire. But the problem is, we had no water. Yeah, you see, we didn't have a generator back then. Okay? There was no generator. We were totally dependent on electricity. So without the generator, we had no water. We couldn't take baths. We couldn't take showers. We had field latrines for the toilets for the last 2 years of that year. All right? They were out over there by the beyond where Ibtisam lives in the field out there. And all we had were shovels. And I remember walking up to the hill, and the fire was coming down. The wind was blowing towards us. And I can never forget that day. I said, how in the world are we going to fight this fire? And the whole campus is going to be burned. I remember to this day. And then just within a few feet of us, as we were getting prepared to see what we could do, but raising dirt and trying to put the fire out, the wind changed, the fire changed and backed into the fire, and it went out, and then we just mopped up the fire. So we all felt that was a wonderful miracle on our part. It preserved the college at that time. But that happened when he was here. Next slide. So we had Joseph Estefan. He was a Lebanese educator. He had a PhD in education. Donald Eichner, we could tell many stories about him. And one day I'll tell some personal stories about him. He was a very colorful and very wonderful person, and people that knew him remembered a lot. Next slide. And then we had Edmond Haddad, and then we had Manouk Nazirian, Sylvia's father. And he was very instrumental in keeping the school open because they had decided to close the school, okay, and move it to Kenya. And he and several others, Tom Staples and Dr. Melky, were adamant at making it a union school and preserving the campus here. Next slide. So those were very difficult years. We've heard stories before how people lived in bomb shelters. Eileen, you were here during that time. We've heard stories before about your father going out and turning on the generator that you'd gotten and braving fires and braving bullets just so they would have electricity for for hours. So these were very, very difficult times. But the people that were here preserved the campus to allow us to continue. Right? Next, let's go back one slide, please. Yeah. So, yeah, this was a wonderful story, and these people deserve so much. We deserve so much, and thanks to them. So, since 1990 to 2025, we have built a completely remodeled the administration building. The auditorium at that time, before that, was totally different than what you have today. We have expanded the library on the 3rd floor. An elevator was installed. We have had the campus store and bakery became a science building a few years ago. The sports complex was created during this time. And most important, in 2009, MEC, Middle East College, which I still call it MEC, became MEU, Middle East University. So these were achievements during this time. So I think the next slide, we have some testimonies that we're going to give. Next slide, please. Okay. So first one, I'm going to ask Samir Barbawi to come up. Would you come up, please? So you and I were together here for those years.
Yeah.
Farida was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see other people that you know or remember.
Yeah.
And you were living here on the Hill.
Yes.
You were a day student.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was it like? And what was the school like?
Oh, the school was a little different. This chapel had the entrance here.
Yeah.
And the stage was there. We had the big pine tree, which I miss very much.
Yeah, we do too.
And I was a student here. I had gone to Musaibi School, and then the last year at Bushri, and then came up here for my college years. And Edmund Haddad was my math teacher, my math advisor. I was a math major. Studied here for 3 years, then immigrated to the U.S.
Yeah, and you came to the U.S. and you got your degree, and then you got a master's in the teaching of math, correct?
That's right. That's right.
All right. And then what happened? I think you came
Then
back here, didn't you?
I came back here
And you
taught for 4 years.
You taught here.
Yep, I
Yeah.
taught for 4 years.
And what did you teach?
I taught math, education, psychology.
And your wife, Tanya,
And-
could she stand up?
Yeah, Tanya's here.
She was the women's dean as well, right?
Yes, yeah. And back then we called it MEC, Many Endless Committees. I was on 21 committees as a teacher.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. we had a limited faculty, so we just did everything.
Wow.
And then I was the dean of men on top of that.
Right. Wow. So you went back to the States,
Yeah.
and then you came back and served a second time in Egypt. You were in charge of Now Union Academy. Is that correct?
Well, I was in charge of three schools. Our 2 Egyptian schools and 1 Sudanese school.
Okay.
And then I became the president of the field.
Of the
there.
field.
Yeah.
So you served another 5 years there.
Yes.
All right. And you've just retired, and you're making trips now again to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And I just want to let everyone know that we have a donor that has been helping with some educational help for scholarship for Lebanese students. And several times we've been short on funds, and I've called Samir and Tanya, and I said, we're short. These kids, there's 15 kids. Some of them still need money for their tuition. And their church has raised money twice for us,
Yes.
to help
Yes.
the students here. So we've been doing this now for 4 or 5 years, and over those 4 or 5 years, we've been helping around 14 to 15 students. It's managed by John Issa. I appreciate his help so much, but that money has been deeply appreciated.
Thank you. Yes.
Deeply appreciated.
Yeah. Worked with Eileen's father.
Yeah.
Eileen was just a little kid. Yeah. And and Livon. Yeah.
So tell us,
Yeah.
what does Middle East College, Middle East University mean to you? Okay, how did it influence your life? What did it do for you?
This is where I learned the value of work. we're very poor, and so I worked and worked and worked. And this is where I also learned a lot of the spiritual lessons I've learned, the influence of teachers. When I came back as a faculty member, you see, Egyptian father, Lebanese mother. So kind of a split, but my heart was in Lebanon because Egypt had trouble in the family and so on. So my heart was in Lebanon, and I love Lebanon. And so I wanted to come back. Actually, we never planned to leave, but the war came and the war intensified, and we had 2 little babies, and we had to go back. So that was a sad time for us to go back. And Middle East College has a lot of good memories for me. Many, many memories.
Yeah, and we shared some of those memories
We shared
together.
some of those memories,
and some of
yes.
those we could tell stories probably for hours about things that we just that when not the time that we were here together and Frida was here.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate so much for you being here tonight and
Thank you.
sharing these memories, and I'm sure people would like to talk to you
Sure.
afterwards. But
Okay.
thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
those.
Thank you.
And next we have Myrna. Would you like to come up? And I think that I'm going to sit down and wherever you like to be. You want to be here, or you want to be up on the chair?
Where do you want me to be?
Where would you? Why don't you sit there, okay? And take a microphone.
Okay, so my name is Myrna Karam. First of all, I'm really, really honored and very happy that I am here to speak on the 85th anniversary of Middle East University, now MEC. And I speak on behalf of my entire family. My dad, Bassam Karam, is an alumnus. My mom, Wadat Karam, May Karam, my aunt, Shadia Karam, Mirna, myself, Dina, Jesse, and Judy are all alumni, and they are watching me, and I say hi. I graduated with a degree in business administration, a minor in Arabic, and then I double majored in education. It was all because of Dr. Ella Haddad. I hope she's watching me. And Dr. Edmond Haddad, it's his birthday today. I want to wish him a happy birthday. I have him on Facebook. Happy birthday, Dr. Haddad. I hope you're watching this. Dr. Haddad was the president when I was a student. They asked me when I graduated, and I had to bring out all the papers I had, like Mr. Moses. Like Mr. Moses, and I looked at the dates, and I don't want to share them. I mean, anyway, so there's so much to say about Middle East College and the influence it had on me. But first, I want to pay tribute to the teachers, the mentors, the friends that I had who were teaching me, Mr. and Mrs. Ghali, Mrs. Sana Isa, who taught us typing, and then I used typing because I had to teach, but at NDU, where I teach now, and I was assistant dean of students, we had to figure out one credit to give the students, and we didn't know what to give them. And I said, how about we give them typing, or let's call it keyboarding? And they said, what's the genius idea? Who gives this course? Who gives this course? I said, I took it, and I got 60 words per minute. 60 words per minute. I remember Mr. Ghali also taught us calculators. Remember that course? I got really bad score. It was the one course on my transcript that I got a B on. I also want to mention Mr. and Mrs. David later on. Pastor Nazarian. Pastor Nazarian taught us this one course that was very tough on everybody, history and culture of the Arabs. And it had a lot of dates, and he wanted us to remember and study, so he would give us a quiz every... So every day we went into the classroom, he wanted, everybody is smiling. Say, raise your hands if you've had one of the be'lewas. At the end, he started calling them be'lewa. So today we have a be'lewa. I didn't want to call it quiz because it was too devastating for us to have a quiz. Eventually, we all had diabetes because of all the quizzes on that, in that course. Of course, a special mention to Rifat. He taught us a business course at the end of my major. Norma and Halim also came, Mr. George Shakur. And of course, Dr. Manassian. I mean, he taught us courses. I remember one day, I want to share this. One day he was very, very tired, and we had this exam. We sat here. Of course, it was pews, and each one sat on one corner, so it was impossible to cheat. Impossible. We all carried this wooden table board, and that's how we had our exams. And he was sitting there, and you know, he was sleepy. He said, he fell asleep. He fell asleep. And then he said, he woke up and he realized it was like a final exam. He said, you know, even if I am not watching you, God is And I promise none of us cheated. Honestly, none of us cheated. We had, back then, I mean, it was amazing how we learned our courses. When many universities were just mainly lectures and people sitting for exams, we, on the other hand, had presentations. I remember in many of our courses, we had to read the chapter, summarize, and present ourselves. When I went to another university for my master's degree, many of the students with me did not even know how to do that. I was doing it, you know, like blindfolded. We worked on projects in a team. We presented in a team. We had many chances at it honestly gave us academic excellence. I'm sure it still is giving everybody academic excellence because the integrity and the dedication of the teachers, I mean, from then till today is amazing. During my years of study, I was just speaking to Johnny, we had two major wars, and one of them was in eastern Beirut. It was a war from here to here. And many of the students were not able to go to Ashrafiyya. Many of the students, my friends, I want to mention all of them, but I cannot, but they had to sleep at the dorms. And many of them, when they shelled near the university and the forests, the pine trees caught fire, they ran from the dorms just to, put off the fires. And I remember my dad doing that when I was young a lot. He would just run to help put off the fires because of the shelling. Anyway, to make a long story short, the university gave us academic excellence. I had to register for 2 cross courses at NDU when I was still a student because we had to run flee to the north. One of the courses was finance. Most of the students with me at NDU did not even know what was going on. Armand had given us Finance 1 here, and I scored an A. Also, it was a breeze. Sociology was another course, also a breeze. And ever since, because of the base, the strong educational base, I want to say something about Dr. Haddad. The first semester I studied here, I took, because we used to take 18 credits, 21 credits. I don't know why we were in a rush to finish. Anyway, he asked me to come to his office, and you don't do that. I mean, like when he asks you to go, it's serious. And, I was really worried. And he looked at my grade. They used to give us this grade sheet, the card, and he said, you have an A and then an A minus, A minus, A minus, A minus, A minus. Why? I said, what, why? I'm really happy with my grade. He said, no, I don't want this minus, 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 minus anymore. Why? It just takes a little bit more effort. And, ever since I wanted to make him proud. One thing also for the student who said she was a president of the SA, I was the first female president of the SA, and that's another thing that MEC gave us. We learned elections, we learned voting, we learned democracy, we had constitutions, we learned the rules, we had people who got elected for Voice of MEC, for Pine Echo staff, for they ran. Everybody knew the rules, and when so many in Lebanon don't understand democracy, we practiced it a lot at MEU. We didn't have phones or Wi-Fi's. The landline did not even work at most of the times. We had to wait for an hour to call each other, so we stayed on campus. We stayed on campus. We played to be with our friends. We had long games, and then we had all these beautiful events that you spoke about. We had talent shows, and we had an international night. And I read all the nationalities that were here. And once, I remember, we had one international night that had up to 17 different nationalities presenting and competing. Like, they all wore their national outfits, and everybody offered their national food. It was an amazing night. People looked out for this night. Finally, well, I want to say, what do we carry with us from MEC? I speak for my entire class, who are mostly non-Adventists and are now alive, and they're not watching me. I don't know if they know that we have this tonight. We learned to pray. We pray. We prayed if we were happy, and we prayed if we needed divine support. We learned friendships, but it was amazing, because now I see Ghana's name. Ghana's dad passed away a few months ago, actually. It wasn't last year. And George, yes. And we had a tiny reunion at his funeral, because when we all read, many of us were there. And she looked at me and she said, is it 35 years later? I told her, we don't mention years. We have friendships that have lasted more than 35 years because of MEU. I saw two young men in front of my office at NDU recently, and they said, we are Toufiq Darazi's, you remember Toufiq Darazi, he was also an SA president. They said, we are Toufiq Darazi's sons. He told us to come give you a hug and a kiss. They are students. I never taught them, but we all prayed for Lina Fakhouri's husband when he was sick, and George Ghassan, when we found out of about his, and they're fine now, thank God. Finally, because we were very creative and a lot of fun, when we were graduating, the night we graduated, the day before we graduated, we had a graduation night evening. So the graduates would, do something memorable. And that night, Mr. Armand was our sponsor, was the graduate class sponsor. So we made a song, and I want to share one stanza. Okay, so it is the song, we had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but we, of course, created it. So it goes like this. Bye, Mr. Armand, now we're free. No more accounting or economy. You tried so hard to make us wise. You found out to your surprise, you should have thought about it twice. We had joy, we had fun, nailing courses one by one. And we always will agree, there's no place like MEC. I had one final bit, but I know it's way beyond my time. But one of my friends was running for mayor last weekend in Iddi, in North Lebanon. And before he ran, he called me, we're still friends, and he said, I'm going to make a short speech for the municipality, you know, before they vote for one person and not the other. I said, good on you. He said, I just want to tell you that you know this speech. I said, how do I know the speech? He said, because you helped me memorize it. I said, I helped you memorize it? How? What is it? He said, and I will share it. And I'm sure all of you, and I want to say that only at MEC would we learn such a speech. I have to wear my glasses, but I know everybody should learn it by heart, should know it by heart. And it's also from the principles of education. You all know it. The greatest want of the world is want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall. He won. He won. Only at MEC do we have speeches like this, and only at MEC do we learn, you know, how friendships are made, memories are built, and I'm so grateful to be part of this today. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Luna.
Thank you so much, Mirna. That just did my heart so much good. It's okay. When something's that good, you don't mind if they're 5 or 6. You know, the next person you're going to see a video of graduated the same year I did, but she's going places I'm never going to go. She's seen people I'm never going to see. And one of the people she's seen is somebody I admire so much, a very famous Lebanese designer. I'm not wearing what he designs, of course, but I am wearing his perfume. It's the only way I can keep something from him. But let's watch the video now.
Hello, I'm Ghana Harpkanor. It's truly an honor and a joy for me to be with you today as we celebrate 85 years of Middle East University. When I reflect on my time at MEU in Beirut, I don't just remember a university, I remember a home. Friendship wasn't just encouraged, it was part of everyday life. And it's what first ignited my love for people, for conversation, and for storytelling. I spent countless hours talking with classmates, not just about school, but about life. We all throughout elementary, middle, and high school in both